Welcome. Settle into a comfortable position. Allow your body to relax and let your mind drift back through the centuries. Tonight, we are traveling to the rugged land of ancient Greece, to a city that has become a symbol of discipline, strength, and unyielding order, Sparta. When we hear the word Sparta, we often think of warriors, shields raised in unison, spears pointed forward, and a people who lived for war. Stories of courage and sacrifice echo down to us, shaping Sparta into legend. But behind the myth was a daily life that was often harsh, stripped of comfort, and demanding beyond measure. Over the course of this journey, we will explore what it truly meant to live in Sparta. First, we will look at the upbringing of a Spartan youth and how childhood in this society was less about play and more about endurance and survival. From there, we will move into the story of Leonidas. The king whose stand at Thermopylae became a tale retold for centuries. Then, we will turn toward the mystery of the Oracle of Delphi, whose prophecies influenced Spartan decisions and shaped their destiny. Finally, we will shift our gaze to Athens, Sparta's great rival, to glimpse the contrast between Spartan austerity and Athenian luxury and thought. So let the rhythm of these words, along with the calm of the present moment, carry you into the past. Imagine stone streets beneath your feet, the smell of wood smoke from small hearths, and the distant clang of bronze against bronze. This is Sparta, not the myth, but the lived reality. Imagine yourself as a child born in Sparta. From the moment you arrive, your life is not entirely your own. Even your birth is not simply a family matter. It is a matter of the state. Newborns are examined, and only the strong are permitted to be raised. This first judgment sets the tone for everything that follows. As a Spartan boy, you remain at home only for a few short years. At the age of 7, you are taken from your family and placed into the Aggie, the state-run education and training system. It is less a school and more a crucible. You sleep in barracks with other boys your age, lying on reed mats, often without covering. Warmth comes only from your own body and the closeness of your companions. Food is scarce by design. You are given just enough to survive, never enough to feel satisfied. Hunger is constant, and you are encouraged to steal food to ease it. But if caught, the punishment is severe. Not for the theft itself, but for failing to be cunning enough to avoid detection. The lesson is clear. Survival requires cleverness as well as strength. Each day is filled with drills, training, and lessons. You learn to march in rhythm, to obey without hesitation, to fight as one part of a greater whole. You are taught to endure pain without complaint. When cold winds sweep down from the mountains, there are no cloaks provided. When your muscles ache from endless exercise, there is no sympathy. Hardship is not an accident. It is the very point of your upbringing. Girls in Sparta, too, are expected to be strong. Unlike in many Greek cities, Spartan girls receive physical training, running, wrestling, and throwing the javelin. The belief is that strong women will bear strong children, fit to serve the state. Yet even this training, while unusual for its time, is shaped by the same relentless philosophy of utility and endurance. There is little softness in this world. Songs, dances, and festivals do exist, but they are often tied to discipline and unity rather than individual joy. The rhythm of a Spartan childhood is one of hunger, training, and obedience. And yet, within this harshness lies a kind of stability. Every boy beside you suffers the same hunger. Every girl beside you feels the same strain of exercise. You belong not to yourself, but to Sparta, and that belonging is both a burden and a comfort. Picture the flicker of a small fire in the barracks, boys huddled close after a day of drills, their voices low and weary. Outside, the night is quiet, the stars vast above the darkened hills. Even in exhaustion, even in discomfort, there is a rhythm to life here, a rhythm designed to shape you into what Sparta demands. This is why it sucked to be a Spartan youth. Not because of one great cruelty, but because hardship was constant, designed, and inescapable. Childhood here was never truly childhood as we would know it. It was preparation from the first breath to the last. From the barracks of Spartan youth, let us now walk forward into the life of one of Sparta's kings. Leonidas, his name has become almost inseparable from the narrow pass of Thermopylae, where he and his men made their stand against Persia. But before the legend, there was a man, shaped by the same harsh system as all Spartans, carrying the weight of duty above all else. Imagine the land of Greece in the early 5th century BCE. A storm gathers from the east, the vast Persian Empire. Under King Xerxes, seeking to bring the fractious Greek city-states under its rule, the Greeks are not united. Rivalries and mistrust run deep. But when the Persian army begins its advance, the need for resistance becomes clear. Leonidas, already a mature man and one of Sparta's dual kings, is chosen to lead. His task is monumental. With the Persian forces numbering in the hundreds of thousands, the Greeks know they cannot meet them on open ground. Instead, they choose the narrow pass at Thermopylae, the hot gates where mountains press close to the sea, leaving only a thin corridor for an army to march through. Picture it: the crash of waves against the shore, the steep rock rising on the other side, and a narrow road between. Here, numbers would matter less and discipline more. It is a place where Sparta's training might hold the line against overwhelming force. Leonidas brings with him 300 Spartans, chosen not at random but specifically. Each man is selected because he has a living son, ensuring that his family line will endure even if he does not return. To these Spartans are joined thousands of allies from other Greek states, though still far fewer than the army they face. At Thermopylae, the Persians advance again and again they are driven back. The Spartans fight in disciplined ranks, shields locked, spears thrusting in rhythm. Behind their bronze helmets and crimson cloaks, they move as one, the product of a lifetime of hardship and training. Their role is not simply to win, but to delay, to buy time for the rest of Greece to prepare. The battle lasts 4 days. The Persians grow frustrated, their advantage in numbers useless in the narrow pass. But betrayal undoes what courage had held. A local man reveals to Xerxes a mountain path, a way around the Greek position. Leonidas learns of this, and he understands what it means. He dismisses many of the allied troops, sending them away to safety. But he and his Spartans remain, along with a small band of loyal allies. They do not stay out of recklessness, but from a sense of duty. For Spartans to retreat was unthinkable. To stand even to the end was to fulfill the rhythm of their lives. On the final day, they fight until overwhelmed. Leonidas himself is said to have fallen in the thick of the struggle, his body fiercely defended by his men. When at last they are gone, their stand has become more than a battle. It is a story carried through generations. Thermopylae was not a victory in the immediate sense. The Persians marched on, though they too would eventually be turned back. But Leonidas and his 300 became a symbol of resistance, of courage in the face of impossible odds, and of the Spartan way of life taken to its fullest conclusion. As you imagine the past now, quiet and empty beneath the stars, the waves still lapping at the shore, it is not the clash of bronze and spear that lingers. It is the silence, the memory of men who stood where they knew they would fall, bound not by glory, but by duty. The story of Leonidas reminds us of how Sparta's harsh system, so punishing in childhood, produced individuals who placed their city above themselves. Whether admired or questioned, their endurance continues to echo across time. From the narrow pass of Thermopylae, let us travel now, not to a battlefield, but to a sacred place high in the mountains of central Greece. This is Delphi, a sanctuary that for centuries was believed to be the very center of the world, a place where mortals might hear the voice of the gods. Imagine the journey. A winding path climbs up the slopes of Mount Parnassus. The air cool and thin, scented faintly with pine and mountain herbs. Pilgrims approach from every part of the Greek world, their footsteps slow, their offerings carried carefully. Jars of oil, bowls of grain, precious figurines. For kings and commoners alike, Delphi is a place where decisions are shaped by prophecy. At its heart stands the Temple of Apollo. The stones are pale, weathered by sun and wind, yet still imposing. Columns rise into the sky, and the smoke of incense drifts outward, blending with the mountain air. Within, in a chamber deep inside, sits the Pythia, the priestess of Apollo, chosen to speak for the god. The Pythia does not shout or gesture. Instead, she sits upon a tripod above a cleft in the earth, inhaling the vapors that rise. Her words come in fragments, murmured or chanted, often cryptic, layered with meaning. Priests nearby record her speech, shaping it into verses that can be shared with those who have traveled so far to hear them. For the Spartans, the oracle's voice carried immense weight. It was not simply advice, but destiny itself, a guide for when to wage war, when to make peace, when to sacrifice, when to wait. Before Thermopylae, Leonidas is said to have consulted the oracle, who offered a chilling choice. Either Sparta would be destroyed, or one of its kings must die in battle. In that prophecy, Leonidas seemed to find the path he must walk. But the oracle spoke not only of war. Farmers came to ask about harvests, merchants about journeys, families about the future of their children. In a world where uncertainty pressed in from every side, from weather, from disease, from conflict, the words of Delphi offered a kind of anchor, however uncertain their meaning. Picture yourself in the temple court, the marble warmed by the sun, the murmur of pilgrims surrounding you. Offerings gleam in the light. Bronze tripods, carved figures, vessels of silver. Each is a testament to faith, a hope that Apollo's voice might offer clarity. Yet always, the oracle's words remain ambiguous, leaving space for interpretation, and perhaps that is part of their enduring power. In ambiguity lies flexibility. Each person might hear what they need most, and act with renewed certainty, even when the path was never truly clear. Delphi, then, was both a sacred place and a mirror. It reflected back the hopes and fears of those who came. For Sparta, it reinforced a way of life built upon obedience and destiny. For others, it provided reassurance or warning, depending on how one listened. As the sun sets behind the mountains, the temple grows quiet. The pilgrims begin their journey home, carrying with them words that may shape lives and wars. The stones of Delphi remain, watching silently as generations come and go. The voice of the oracle, always echoing, never fully explained. From the sacred heights of Delphi, let us turn to Sparta's great rival, Athens. If Sparta was discipline and austerity, Athens was conversation and curiosity. To compare them is to see two sides of the Greek world, both enduring but profoundly different. Imagine yourself in an Athenian home at dusk. The lamps are being lit, the glow of oil flames casting warm patterns on the walls. Guests gather for a symposium, a feast that is also a gathering of minds. Reclining on couches, men drink diluted wine from decorated cups, while servants bring trays of bread, olives, figs, and fish seasoned with herbs. The air is lively, not with shouts, but with conversation. One man quotes a line of poetry, another responds with a challenge, and soon a circle of voices fills the room. Questions drift. What is justice? What is courage? What makes a life worth living? In Athens, these are not abstract notions, but matters for debate, shaped by philosophers whose words still echo to this day. Picture Socrates, perhaps in one of these very rooms, calmly questioning, guiding thought with his persistent inquiry. He wears no crown, no armor, yet his influence shapes minds as surely as any Spartan drill master shapes soldiers. Where Sparta demanded silence and obedience, Athens invited words, questions, and differing views. The contrast extends even to daily life. Spartan meals were plain and functional, a simple broth meant only to sustain. In Athens, though not lavish by modern standards, food carried a sense of occasion, of pleasure as well as necessity. Music, laughter, and conversation filled the air, weaving together the threads of community and thought. This is not to say Athens was without hardship. There was inequality. There was war. There were struggles of its own. But compared with the stern rhythm of Spartan life, Athenian culture offered space for ideas, for beauty, for a kind of richness that balanced survival with expression. As you picture these two worlds, the cold barracks of Sparta and the warm symposiums of Athens, you can feel the spectrum of the Greek experience. Both sought to shape human lives in their own way, one through discipline, the other through thought. Together, they formed a civilization whose influence has never truly faded. Our journey tonight has carried us through the land of Greece, into the barracks of Spartan children, into the narrow pass of Thermopylae, up the sacred slopes of Delphi, and finally into the feasting halls of Athens. We have seen what it meant to live in Sparta, where even childhood was shaped into preparation, and where duty outweighed comfort. We have listened to the story of Leonidas, who stood until the end at Thermopylae. We have wandered among the words of the oracle, never certain, always powerful. And we have contrasted this with the banquets and philosophy of Athens, a reminder that the Greek world was never just one thing. As you reflect on these places, let yourself feel the contrast with your own moment now. You are not lying on a reed mat in a Spartan barracks. You are not marching through a narrow pass against impossible odds. You are not waiting in line to hear the oracle's riddles. You are here in the quiet of your own space, safe and warm. Let the rain outside your window blend with the rhythm of this story. Let the voices of history fade softly into silence. The struggles of the past belong to another time, while your present belongs to rest. Close your eyes. Imagine the distant sound of waves against the Greek shore. Allow yourself to drift calmly and gently into sleep.